All right, everyone. The other day, the UK's judiciary made a very interesting decision in the context of modern sociopolitics, which is that they've decided that indeed free speech does include the right to offend people. Now, this has been settled science in the US for a long time. SCOTUS ruled long ago that hate speech doesn't fundamentally exist. There's no hate speech exception in the First Amendment. You have the right to say things that other people find objectionable, obscene, and offensive. You can't harass them. You can't follow them around, stalking them and shouting racial slurs at them or something, and fighting words do apply. You can't issue credible threats. But if you're just being objectionable from the comfort of your own home, making a YouTube video or something, it's protected explicitly under the First Amendment. It's very interesting, though. That's in principle. This is in practice. The UK just reaffirming, yeah, indeed, we're not going to be throwing people in jail because they said something that happened to, in an abstract sense, offend another person or a group of people. Whether it be for religious purposes, blasphemy or something, political purposes, you're considered out there fringe, extreme or whatever, we're not going to be able to prosecute people for that because they have the right to say these things. It's very interesting. With this decision, technically speaking, the UK, which we all joke about as being the rainy land of censorship, is more free speechy than the United States. Now, I look at it this way. When people, usually liberals, not even leftists at this point, they're arming up and exercising a great deal of speech and often action that goes well beyond the realm of legality, liberals and neocon sellouts, basically, are always making the argument, well, it's a private platform, they can do what they want, that your speech is obscene, so it's not protected, and stupid shit like that in many cases contravenes established legal documentation. I find it funny that the United States, and many people within, don't see it as, if not a God-given responsibility, at the very least an ethical responsibility to try to be the most free country in the world. And yet, bit by bit, we're losing the war for liberty. And countries that in many cases have been severely censorious recently are outstripping us. There's more free speech at this point. There's more freedom of press at this point. There's certainly more freedom of religion, if we look at the lockdown bullshit, in many other countries around the world. Some of them don't really have any. Part of it is cultural. We've gotten to the point where basically we've got a Chinese social credit score style system, to the point where we're looking at government regulations. Think about it this way. In the United States, for instance, I reported on this yesterday. Why should it be necessary? What leads us to the point where the freest country in the world, with the First Amendment and everything like that, needs a regulation from the government to prevent banks from blacklisting people for political opinions that they happen to have? What gets us reasonably to the point where a nation literally founded on the concept of minding your own business and being an individual needs that kind of regulation? My argument is, for pragmatic and ethical purposes, for traditional purposes, it just shouldn't happen. It should be expected. We should be boycotting businesses that engage in censorship. We should be railing against the government for any attempt to regulate internet free speech. We should be railing against banks that blacklist people. There should be massive protests anytime some fucking YouTuber gets banned for having wrong think opinions. There should be hundreds of thousands of people rioting when this happens. But instead, in other countries, in countries that don't in some cases even have a constitutional protection explicitly for free expression, for free religion or whatever, people go nuts. The Europeans riot more after a football game, a soccer game really, than the U.S. citizenry does when they're told that their freedom of assembly is fundamentally suspended. With this decision, the UK officially has more free speech than the U.S. in many ways. I think that's sad. It's going to be hard to make 4chan jokes about, oh, you bongs over there, ha ha ha, the Queen told you you're not allowed to say fart jokes anymore. So you're not going to be able to make those jokes anymore. I guess we're going to have to swallow the bitter pill that we're falling behind in the race for liberty. The whole purpose of the American experiment initially is to try to promote maximized liberty, progressively getting more and more of it, in the realization that the perfect society, at least the most perfect union you can create, in a pragmatic sense, should have less government and more liberty, and instead we've done a 180 and we're removing liberty and then getting more government. And more corporate control. And these corporations, the banks and so forth, they're all tied at the hip by the government. They have various legal protections. They adhere to various regulations. There are certain responsibilities platforms and financial institutions are supposed to have. They all violate them regularly. They all completely violate the rules by which they're supposed to live. And because they've got deep pockets, Congress doesn't do jack fucking shit about it. You've got most of the mainline tech sites right now are violating the very spirit of Section 230, and the only person fucking talking about it, there are two people talking about it. Donald Trump, supposedly far-right extremist, and fucking Tulsi Gabbard, who never met a gun she didn't want to ban. Tulsi Gabbard's beginning to look more and more good by the day if she would just give up the gun shtick and go ahead and do some socialized medicine or something like that. If you have free speech, you can actually argue against it. If you don't have free expression, you don't have jack shit. There's a reason why the First Amendment, by the way, is the first. There's a reason why the second is close behind it. The UK, more free speechy than the US. It's like here, when I look at the Dutch culture and stuff, there's more free speech, I think, here. And if you had a Dutch version of YouTube, it would probably be more edgy than the one that's based in the US. And no, some of that's because they're in California, and, the land of fruits and nuts. But even if they relocated to Texas, I wouldn't expect much to change. Except that Texas would then go blue because all the employees would take their stupid leftism with them. It's madness, I tell you. It's insane. That's about all. Peace out.